Heads up, people. I have a little news flash for you. You want to know who the real anti is in New Zealand? Alright. I want you to go back in time and I want you to have a look at who brought up all the bullshit in the first place. It was the mainstream media. It wasn't the people. It was the mainstream media. The anti-trans was that of the mainstream media. In the early 90s, we had a trans population. It was quite funny. It was, well, no, I wouldn't say funny. It was quite good. And we had the first in New Zealand trans marriage. We had the first in New Zealand trans member of parliament, and we didn't have all this hatred against the people in trans. We didn't have it. Let's move up to 2020. Straight after, well, in the middle of COVID. In the middle of COVID, this whole idea of anti-trans was portrayed on the media, on the mainstream media here in New Zealand. But if you have a look at the Bill of Rights, and under the Bill of Rights, right, and this is one of the reasons the Bill of Rights was created, right, is that here in New Zealand, trans are protected. Trans, the LGBTQIA, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P are all protected. Look up the fucking Bill of Rights and you'll see that it's already got full protections. Full protections. Alright? So if you have a look right back to the late 90s, the governments put in place what was known as a unisex toilet. Think about that. Male, female, unisex. Think about that seriously, people. It was unisex and disabled. And it was more of an open toilet for anybody to use. Anybody. Anybody. Right? You have a look at 2022. 2022, 2023. It was the mainstream media that reported that Posey Parker was a racist. It was the mainstream media that reported that Posey Parker was anti-trans. Otherwise, nobody would have known. Now, it was the mainstream media that put out that what was happening in the Posey Parker show. But before that, it was the mainstream media that hyped the situation. Alright, this is where I don't understand it. When in New Zealand history have you ever heard of NZ Pol ever going to the media? NZ Pol, in other words, New Zealand Police, ever going to the media? And when have you ever heard of the GCSB, which it wasn't the GCSB, by the way, people, because the GCSB has been disbanded. It's actually been included into the SIS. So whoever it was, which was the mainstream media, lying again, attacking trans. The real anti-trans in this neighborhood, in Auckland, is that of the mainstream media. Why? Because they can sell Jacinda's hate. Remember Jacinda? Jacinda Ardern, you know, the queen of hate, division, racial discrimination, and phobia. And phobia, right? Here's the thing. Once upon a time, in my security firm, we had 4 trans working for us. And one was the supervisor. Nicest fucking people I ever come across. Better than the straight folk. These are personalized bodyguards. Go and have a look and see how many trans are in security today. Why? Because the mainstream media have dubbed them to be anti-society. The Greens turned around and went to a protest to rack it up, to annoy. And if all the trans that were there have all already said the same thing, she was throwing out racial discrimination against white people. What was she aiming at? She was actually aiming at the trans people that were there. Say what? Yeah. Tell me something, people. How many trans are in Parliament now? None. Who was the only trans in Parliament? Georgina Byers, Labour. Who was the only lesbian open out there about her sexuality in Parliament? Huh? Louise Wall, Labour. Huh? Labour. Huh? When Georgina Byers stopped being an MP, what happened? Labour went to hate and division. You notice all of that started after Louisa Wall left. All of that started after Louisa Wall quit. Well, was voted out of her area. Why? Because she would have testified that it's not true. People don't hate the trans. People don't hate lesbian, gay. They don't. What they hated was story time in front of kids. They didn't give a fuck if a transgender man or woman. They just didn't want to see junk hanging out and people doing stupid stuff in front of their kids. That's all it was. And we would have done the same if it had been some kid fucker down the road. Because any man or woman that dresses up showing their junk off and showing their tits off to kids is a kid fucker. And all you need after that is a fucking punch in the head. Is a good fucking beating. And any government that allows that sort of shit to happen is a child abuser. That's all we were worried about, was what the fuck are you teaching our kids? That's what the people were worried about. But have you noticed? It was the media that started this rigmarole in the first place. It was the mainstream media selling it. That we the people hated trans. I don't hate trans. Never did. Never did. In fact, there's probably more straight people that I can't stand, including the mainstream media, more than the transgender. In fact, to be honest with you, there's Warehouse Takanini, Countdown Browns Road, a couple of clothing shops in Manurewa, a couple of clothing shops out here in Otara, the hospital. I know of a transgender in one of the petrol stations. I get on with them great, and I'm an ex-gang member. There's no in fact, the one in the warehouse in the young miss in the warehouse in Takanini, probably the nicest person you're ever gonna fucking meet. Nicest person, humble, polite, respectful. At the end of the day, you know, they're just people. They just choose to do something behind closed doors that we don't. And they, out in public, they choose to be who they choose to be. That's their business. It's got nothing to do with us. You got the right to choose who you want to be. You know, let them be. I don't give a flying fuck. But no, it was the mainstream media pushing this hype. It was the mainstream media talking all this caca, all this bullshit. It was the mainstream media that brought over American-made shit here in New Zealand. It was the mainstream media pushing it as relevant as it was not. And they were pushing it hard. You want to know who's anti in this country? It's the mainstream media. TV3, TVNZ. Huh? And then you got all the freedom groups out there, and they just got on it and went with the government's narratives, and they were watching mainstream media and they just went for it. If you look at the Bill of Rights, people, the Bill of Rights, sexual orientations are all protected under the law. If you look under the Discrimination Act, sexual orientations are all protected under the law. And they have been since 1992. It's the mainstream media pushing this shit, people. They're the ones who bring this hate crap onto the people. This hate crap. We check with the police. They don't spread that shit. We check with the SIS. They don't spread that shit. Shit, they'd lose their fucking jobs if they did. And you know, I hate the SIS. I can't stand the fucking wankers. but they wouldn't dare do that. I honestly think the Serious Fraud Office should have a look into what is going on and who brought this hate shit into New Zealand. Because under the Bill of Rights, everyone is already protected, including anti-vaxxers, people. We're protected under the Bill of Rights. Well, you're all protected. I'm not. They're allowed to hate on me as much as they want. It is what it is. I'm Michael D'Angelo with Silence Media. Everything I say and do is based upon my opinion and the opinions of Silence Media. And in my opinion, the mainstream media need to go. They need to be chopped. Big time. I'm serious. And I'm talking TVNZ. I'm talking News Hub. I'm talking all the news channels need to go. 2ZB needs to be chopped. Their mouths are just getting foul. Ever since the election, they've just become foul. Absolute putrid. It is what it is. Peace.